500 XRP sounds small. Online, people talk about thousands, like it's normal, but most holders never even get close to 500. So what does holding 500 XRP really mean today? Is it insignificant or more serious than it looks? Let's dive in. Reaching 500 XRP isn't about one big buy. It's about not quitting. Most new crypto users buy once, panic, then disappear. They sell on boredom, not on news. Weeks later, they restart from zero. 500 XRP means you stayed through that cycle, and you kept adding when attention moved elsewhere. That alone puts you ahead of the average participant. So let's define the word serious. Not rich, not safe. Serious means you have enough exposure to care, but not enough to gamble. It's a position that changes your behavior. You stop watching every candle. You start asking better questions. Distribution, time horizon, and why you own it at all. This video is about where 500 sits on that spectrum. Forget today's price for a minute. Think in units. 500 XRP is a slice of the network, not a dollar amount. Prices can swing, your exposure stays. That's why we start with math and behavior, not predictions. The goal is to locate 500 XRP inside the XRP ecosystem without hype, so you can judge it like a position, not a dream. At 500 XRP, you're not built for active trading. One bad entry, one fee-heavy week, and your stack evaporates. But as a hold, it's different. It's big enough to make you pay attention and small enough to survive mistakes. It pushes you toward patience instead of constant action. That's why 500 becomes a decision, not a game. A serious position isn't about guessing tomorrow. It's about choosing a time frame you can tolerate. With 500 XRP, you can't rely on quick flips. You're forced to think in months and years. That's where discipline shows up. You either build a plan or you drift back into impulses. And drifting is how most portfolios quietly die in crypto. Now zoom out. On XRPL explorers like XRP Scan and BitHomp, the distribution is brutally uneven. A huge share of wallets hold tiny balances, often double digits. That means the average holder is not a 10,000 XRP profile. When you reach 500, you're already above the mass of casual wallets. Not elite, just farther up the curve than most people assume. This is the counterintuitive part. 500 XRP can place you ahead of millions of wallets, even if it doesn't feel impressive. That's because most participants never accumulate. They sample, they buy, sell, and move on. So 500 isn't about status. It's evidence of persistence in a market designed to exhaust attention. And persistence is what separates holders from tourists. Rarity in crypto doesn't start at mythical numbers. It starts where consistency drops off. Most people never reach any stable position at all. They pass through the market, not into it. So when you look at 500 XRP, you're not seeing wealth. You're seeing a line most participants never cross. Most individuals don't fail in crypto because they lack capital. They fail because they lack follow-through. Small, regular accumulation beats sporadic conviction, but that requires emotional control, not cash. 500 XRP isn't a money problem, it's a patience problem. And patience is exactly what volatile markets are designed to destroy first. When prices move, most people react. They trade instead of accumulate. Every spike becomes temptation. Every dip becomes fear. Over time, activity replaces progress. Fees grow, positions shrink, confidence erodes. That's why many active traders never reach even modest thresholds. Not because they were wrong, but because they never stayed still long enough. Accumulating 500 XRP isn't exciting. There are no dopamine hits, no viral screenshots. It's repetition without applause. That's the real barrier. The vast majority don't quit because of losses. They quit because nothing happens. Boredom feels like failure in markets obsessed with noise. But boredom is where accumulation quietly survives. Let's be clear. 500 XRP is not life-changing wealth. It won't buy freedom. It won't erase risk. It won't shortcut time. Anyone promising otherwise is selling fantasy. This position doesn't change your life overnight. It changes how seriously you treat your decisions. And that distinction matters more than numbers. Calling 500 XRP meaningless misses the point. It gives you exposure. It gives you context. It gives you responsibility. You stop watching from the sidelines. You start paying attention to structure, not noise. That shift from observer to participant is what makes 500 XRP matter. Not because of price, but because it creates skin in the game. The real threshold isn't financial, it's psychological. At 500 XRP, you stop asking if crypto works. You start asking how you behave inside it. You think longer, you react less. You learn distribution instead of chasing headlines. That mindset shift is what separates casual exposure from an actual position, regardless of size. Below 100 XRP, most positions are exploratory. People test the idea of crypto without committing to it. There's interest, but no real attachment. Decisions stay shallow. Reactions stay fast. This level isn't wrong. It's normal. But it rarely leads to understanding, because curiosity alone doesn't survive volatility for very long. At 500 XRP, behavior changes. You stop checking charts constantly. You stop expecting instant results. This isn't excitement. It's commitment. You've invested enough to care, but not enough to panic daily. That balance forces discipline. And discipline is where real learning starts in crypto, far more than at any hype-driven entry point. Beyond 1,000 XRP, accumulation usually becomes intentional. People think in frameworks, not impulses. They rebalance, they plan. This level isn't about excitement anymore. It's about structure. But reaching strategy requires surviving boredom first, which is why many talk about this stage, but far fewer ever operate inside it consistently. Questions like this don't come from math. They come from doubt. People don't ask if 500 XRP is serious because they want numbers. They want reassurance. They want to know they're not wasting time, effort, or attention. That's why these questions repeat endlessly. Not because answers change, but because confidence fades faster than understanding. Social media warps perception. You see extreme portfolios, perfect entries, massive claims. What you don't see is how rare those outcomes are. Platforms reward spectacle, not distribution. So normal positions feel insignificant by comparison. That distortion makes 500 XRP look small, when statistically, it's already beyond what most participants ever maintain consistently. Very few people look at actual distribution data. They assume most holders are wealthy. They assume thresholds are unreachable. In reality, ownership is fragmented and shallow. Millions hold tiny amounts. Very few hold steadily. Without understanding distribution, every position feels inadequate. With it, 500 XRP stops being a guess and becomes context. Questions about position size aren't shallow, they're structural. They force people to confront reality instead of fantasy. They replace narratives with scale. Asking whether 500 XRP is serious isn't about wealth, it's about orientation. Because understanding where you stand changes how you behave, long before it changes what you own. 500 XRP won't impress anyone online, and that's precisely the point. It's serious without being flashy, meaningful without being theatrical. This level doesn't promise outcomes, it reveals behavior, and behavior, not numbers, is what determines whether a position grows into understanding or collapses under emotion. Size alone never created conviction. Two people can hold the same amount and behave completely differently. One panics, the other learns. That difference compounds. Markets reward consistency long before they reward scale, which is why behavior determines outcomes far more reliably than position size ever will, especially in volatile, narrative-driven environments like crypto. So is 500 XRP a serious position? It depends less on the number and more on the person holding it. If you treat it as noise, it's nothing. If you treat it as structure, it's enough to learn. If you want to explore the world of crypto, don't chase miracles. Educate yourself. Because in this world, a simple click can change a life, but only knowledge can protect your future.